You have probably seen this painting before. It has appeared on book covers, posters, museum souvenirs, documentaries, and even social media posts. Millions of people recognize it instantly, yet very few know why it has become one of the most unforgettable images in the history of art. A lone man stands on the edge of a mountain, surrounded by an endless sea of mist. At first glance, it seems like a simple landscape. But the longer you look, the stranger it becomes. Who is this man? Why is his face hidden from us? What is he actually looking at? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all. What if the person standing on that cliff wasn't meant to represent the living at all? This masterpiece is Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog, painted around 1818 by the German Romantic artist Caspar David Friedrich. More than 200 years later, the painting still refuses to reveal its biggest secret. Before trying to understand the man, look carefully at the world around him. Friedrich places the wanderer completely alone. He stands on a jagged rock high above the landscape, wearing a dark green coat and holding a walking cane for balance. His hair is caught by the wind as though he has only just reached the summit after a long and difficult climb. Everything beneath him disappears into a thick blanket of white fog. Only a few rocky peaks rise above the mist, floating like islands in an endless ocean. Far away, mountains slowly dissolve into the pale horizon until the line between earth and sky completely disappears. There are no roads, no towns, no other people, nothing that tells us where this place begins or ends. The entire landscape feels suspended between reality and a dream. Then you notice something even more unusual. The wanderer never turns toward us. His back is all we ever see. That single artistic decision transformed this painting into one of the most powerful images ever created. Most portraits invite us to study a person's expression. We search their eyes for emotion. We read their smile, their anger, their fear. But Friedrich gives us none of that. He removes the face entirely. Without a face, we cannot know what the wanderer is thinking. Has he finally reached the end of an impossible journey? Is he overwhelmed by the beauty before him? Is he remembering someone he lost? Or is he standing there because he has no idea what comes next? The painting never answers. Instead, it quietly asks us the same questions. That is why every person experiences this masterpiece differently. Someone carrying hope sees possibility. Someone carrying grief sees loneliness. Someone facing uncertainty sees their own future hidden inside the fog. The wanderer becomes whoever the viewer needs him to be. In a way, the painting isn't showing us another person. It is showing us ourselves. This technique has a long tradition in German Romantic art. Artists often painted figures from behind instead of facing the viewer. By hiding the person's identity, they invited us to step into that place ourselves. Instead of watching someone else's experience, we begin imagining our own. That simple idea is one reason this painting has remained timeless. It never grows old because every generation finds something different inside it. To understand why Friedrich painted scenes like this, we have to understand the man himself. Caspar David Friedrich was born in 1774 along the Baltic coast. His childhood was marked by tragedy. Before he became an adult, he lost several members of his family, including his mother and sisters. But one loss stayed with him more than any other. His younger brother drowned after falling through the ice during winter. According to many accounts, he died while trying to save Friedrich himself. Whether every detail of that story is true or not, there is no doubt that death and loss shaped Friedrich's life forever. Friends often described him as quiet and deeply reflective. He preferred long walks through forests, mountains, and lonely coastlines instead of crowded gatherings. Nature became his closest companion. But Friedrich wasn't interested in painting landscapes as simple travel scenes. He wasn't trying to create postcards. He wanted every mountain, every tree, every cloud, and every ray of light to express human emotion. For him, nature wasn't just something people looked at. It was something people felt. He once wrote that an artist should paint not only what stands before his eyes, but also what exists within his soul. That single sentence explains almost everything about Wanderer above the sea of fog. Because despite how real this landscape appears, it doesn't actually exist. Every mountain, every rock formation, and every cliff was inspired by places Friedrich visited during his travels through the sandstone mountains of what is now Germany and the Czech Republic. He filled sketchbooks with countless drawings of cliffs, valleys, forests, and distant peaks. But when he returned to his studio, he didn't paint one real location. Instead, he combined pieces from many different places into a completely imaginary landscape. The cliff belongs to one mountain. The distant peaks belong to another. The valleys come from somewhere else entirely. No traveler has ever stood where the Wanderer stands. It is a place that exists only inside Friedrich's imagination. And that raises an even deeper question. If the landscape itself is imaginary, what is the Wanderer really looking at? That question has fascinated historians, philosophers, and art lovers for more than 2 centuries. If the landscape isn't real, then perhaps the view was never meant to represent a place at all. Many believe the Sea of Fog symbolizes the future. Think about it. From where the Wanderer stands, almost everything is hidden. He cannot see the valleys below. He cannot see where the roads lead. He cannot even tell what lies just beyond the clouds. Only a few mountain peaks break through the mist, like brief moments of clarity in a life filled with uncertainty. It is remarkably similar to the way we experience our own lives. We can remember the past. We can stand in the present. But everything ahead of us remains hidden. No matter how carefully we plan, the future always disappears into fog. Perhaps that is why this painting feels so personal. At some point, everyone has stood at the edge of the unknown. A new job, a difficult decision, the loss of someone we love, or simply a moment when life changes forever. The Wanderer isn't just looking at a landscape. He is confronting uncertainty itself. But this brings us to the biggest mystery of all. Who is he? Surprisingly, Friedrich never told anyone. He left no written explanation, no diary entry identifying the figure, no title revealing his identity. As a result, historians have spent generations trying to solve the puzzle. One popular theory is that the Wanderer is actually Caspar, David Friedrich himself. There are several reasons for this idea. The figure appears to have reddish hair, much like Friedrich. The painting was completed during an important period in his life, shortly after his marriage, when he seemed to experience a rare moment of happiness after years of personal tragedy. If this interpretation is correct, the painting becomes something deeply personal. A man who spent much of his life surrounded by grief finally reaches a place where he can look beyond the darkness. Not because his struggles disappeared, but because he found the strength to face them. However, another theory is just as fascinating. Some art historians noticed that the Wanderer's dark green coat closely resembles the uniform worn by volunteer rangers who fought against Napoleon during the Wars of Liberation. Based on this detail, some researchers suggested that the figure may represent Colonel Friedrich Gotthard von Brincken, a military officer connected to those conflicts. According to this interpretation, the painting becomes a memorial rather than a self-portrait. The lonely figure standing above the clouds may represent someone who had already died before the painting was completed. A silent tribute to courage, sacrifice, and lives lost during war. It is an intriguing theory. But there's one problem. There is no definitive proof. And perhaps that uncertainty is exactly what Friedrich wanted. Because the moment we identify the Wanderer as one specific person, the painting becomes smaller. Its mystery disappears. Its meaning becomes fixed. Instead, Friedrich leaves the question unanswered. Anyone can become the Wanderer. A grieving father, a returning soldier, a young student facing an uncertain future. Or perhaps, you are. Ironically, despite creating one of the greatest masterpieces in European art, Friedrich was never celebrated the way we might expect. His paintings attracted only limited attention during his lifetime. As artistic styles changed, many critics dismissed his quiet landscapes as old-fashioned, overly melancholic, and emotionally distant. Later in life, Friedrich suffered a stroke that severely limited his ability to paint. His health declined. Money became scarce. The artist who spent decades painting lonely figures eventually experienced that loneliness himself. When he died in 1840, he was largely forgotten. For many years, his masterpieces gathered little public attention. It seemed as though history had allowed both the painter and his work to disappear into the same fog he had painted so often. Only decades later did the world begin to rediscover his genius. Artists, writers, and philosophers recognized that Friedrich had created something timeless. His paintings were never simply about mountains or forests. They explored the deepest emotions every human being experiences: hope, loss, fear, faith, isolation, and the search for meaning. Yet even after his rediscovery, another chapter complicated his legacy. During the 20th century, Friedrich's dramatic landscapes were appropriated by Nazi propaganda, which attempted to use his imagery for political purposes. It was an association the artist himself never chose. For years after World War II, this connection made many scholars cautious about discussing his work. Eventually, historians separated Friedrich's personal vision from the ideology that tried to claim it. The paintings could finally be appreciated for what they truly were. Not symbols of power, not celebrations of conquest, but quiet reflections on the human experience. Today, Wanderer Above the Sea of Fog remains one of the most recognizable paintings ever created. Its image appears everywhere: books, films, documentaries, advertisements, classrooms, and museums across the world. Yet despite millions of people seeing it every year, the mystery remains untouched. We still don't know who the wanderer is. We still don't know exactly what he sees beyond the clouds. And perhaps we never will. Maybe that uncertainty is the real masterpiece. Every famous portrait gives us a face. A face belongs to someone else. But a figure seen only from behind could belong to anyone. To a painter carrying years of grief. To a soldier remembered after death. Or to every one of us standing before an uncertain future, searching for answers hidden somewhere beyond the fog. That is why this painting has survived for more than 200 years. Not because it gives us answers, but because it reminds us that some of life's greatest questions are meant to be lived, rather than solved. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden story behind this masterpiece, there are countless other paintings hiding equally fascinating secrets beneath their surface. So don't forget to subscribe and join me as we continue exploring the mysteries hidden inside the world's greatest works of art.